Attention humanitarian and development professionals. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Then you've come to the right place. Humanitarian Global offers self-paced online courses designed specifically for you. With our comprehensive curriculum, you'll build your capacity in the most critical areas of humanitarian and development work. Our course offerings include monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, water, sanitation and hygiene, disaster risk reduction and management, food security and nutrition in emergencies, procurement and supply chain management, human nutrition and dietetics, maternal, infant and young child nutrition. With Humanitarian Global, you'll have the opportunity to grow your skills and impact the lives of people in need. Visit our website to learn more about our courses and apply today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. We are glad and happy that you have chosen to really just find time and be able to participate in this webinar that we have today. Our webinar today is on WASH, and basically we will be looking at the guidelines for developing inclusive water, sanitation and hygiene infrastructure. So we do look forward to getting to learn more about that and know how to be able to implement what we are learning. And I'm joined in with a few of HG team who have been able to make this session a success even as we progress. And I would want them to be able to just say hi to you guys and then be able to, you also get to know who they are. And sorry, I've noticed that I've not introduced myself. So my name is Sheilah. I'm part of the academics team here at Humanitarian Global, and I will be the moderator for the day. I also want to give a shout out to Shome. Thank you so much for joining this session from Norwegian Church Aid Ethiopia. And also thank you again, Fires, for being able to join this session. So with that, I think what we want to really start so that now we are able to do a lot for today, because what we have in store is a bit of introductions, getting to know each other. And then from there, one of my colleagues will give you updates on what is happening currently at Humanitarian Global, so that now you can just be aware of the same. And then we'll also now bring in our expert for the day, who will take us through the session and tell us what she has in store for us. Then from there, you will get to tackle a few questions live, and also some questions that will be posted on the Q&A, and then we will end there. So you see, we have quite a lot that we need to be able to cover within the 1 hour that we are here today. So thank you once again, and looking forward to getting to learn a lot from you even as we continue. And also shout out from Alex. Alex is saying hi, as well as Mohammed Al-Hadi. Thank you so much. So with that, I think I want to bring on one of my colleagues. His name is Anthony. Just introduce himself, and then we'll proceed. Anthony.
Thank you so much, Sheilah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session today. My name is Anthony from the academic support team at Humanitarian Global. So happy and looking forward to interact with you more as we go on with the session. So on the chat section, feel free to chat with us. We are here to support you and assist you in terms of the programs, any questions that you might be having to our team. We can be able to support you and respond to you. So thank you so much. Continue inviting your friends, your colleagues. Maybe you are at the office, share the link with them so that they can also join. And together we can learn from Susan today as she takes us through the webinar for today. So thank you so much. I know I'm going to be back in a few with more updates. So back to you, Sheilah.
Great. Thank you so much, Anthony, for that. I do hope that you've gotten to know who Anthony is. I also want to say hi to Ononja Yahaya, also says hi to everyone, and he's happy to be here. So I'd also ask Susan, our expert, to just say hi and introduce herself, and then we will proceed from there. Susan.
Thank you, Sheilah. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for joining. I'm glad to be part of today's webinar, sharing a few insights into inclusive WASH. And I definitely look forward to a very interactive session with all of us who have joined. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you so much, Susan, for that. I also want to give a shout out to Abdullahi, also who has joined us and is happy to have us all here. With that, I think I would also still emphasize that if you have any comments, please channel it to the chat feature, so that now we'll be able to respond to them. And if you also have any questions, please write them at the Q&A, and then we'll be able to session. So with that, allow me to bring back Anthony to be able to tell us what Humanitarian Global has planned for you guys this month and the next one. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Sheilah. Just as an introductory bit, Humanitarian Global, this is a training organization based in Nairobi, Kenya. Our main focus has been to work with youth humanitarian and development practitioners and organizations, especially when it comes to capacity building and training. So before we delve into today's session, I would like just to run you through the website for you to understand maybe about the upcoming events and other training programs that you can undertake when it comes to water sanitation and hygiene. So this is our link, and my colleague is going to be sharing that on the chat section. So this is our homepage. This is our website. We do have a couple of things starting from next week, and where you can access them. We do have the workshop. So the workshop, we normally have a 1 week training workshop and also training workshop. And among the upcoming ones in next week, one of them is going to be writing proposals for donor-funded projects, and that is a training that is going to be taking place within a period of 1 week. So that is an online training, and you can find more details there. Once you click, you'd be able to find the training outline, the course objectives, and all these details. They are there for you to be able to access them. So I would urge you to go through that. And the good thing, you can also share with colleagues. You can send them via WhatsApp, via email, and they can also browse and be able to benefit from these programs. So for you to register quickly, you can be able to register as an individual. There's a link there. You can click on it, fill a very simple form there, and then our team is going to reach out to you. And also you can register as a group. So I would also encourage you, might be here on behalf of your team, and you'd want to undertake these training. So there's also that option. And the good thing is that as you register as a group, you're going to get more discounts on the training fees. So with that said, another training that is going to be happening next week, which is also, we do have our expert who does lead us in that training. That is going to be the social behavior change communication. I would like maybe just quickly to run you through on what we cover in this training workshop, which is happening in the upcoming week. So this is also a 1 week training, and within the 5 days, we make sure that we can tackle and introduce you to social behavior communication. And this is starting from the basics, where we look into the evolution, the characteristics of behavior communication concept. And then we take you through the essential steps when it comes to communication planning, the SBCC strategies, and also principles of social behavior change communication. And then we look into the C planning process. And here we start by looking at the situation, understand the situation. We look into the context and summary analysis, as well as the formative research. As we delve more into the C planning process in the second module, we now focus on the design and the creation of messages. And among the key areas here that we look into, we talk about the communication strategies, the audience segmentation, priorities, and profiles. We also look into barriers and facilitators to change, communication objectives, strategic approach, and positioning. We also talk about channels, activities, and also the material mix when it comes to communication. We also look into the refinement and the presentation of a communication strategy, together with the creating how to create effective materials rather, and also the concept testing and pre-testing. So you can see the module very much hands-on actually, because we do take a practical approach as we take you through these training. the third module is about the implementation and monitoring, taking into the perspective that monitoring and evaluation, and also during the implementation stage, and also throughout the project, it's very throughout the campaign, it's very important for you to be able to understand on how to go about it. So we look into the implementation plans. We talk about the planning activities, the budgeting aspect as well. We also look into the consideration for implementation of social behavior communication programs, and also how to monitor campaigns. Lastly, it's about the evaluation and planning, and then here we look into the M&D concept when it comes to SBCC. And finally, we can talk about some of we look into case studies that we can benchmark with when it comes to running successful campaigns, and also looking into the emerging trends in social behavior change communication. So I know these are courses very key in our practice, and as a WASH practitioner, you need also to be very good when it comes to how you use the power of communication to drive change. I know when it comes to water sanitation and hygiene, most of our activities, most of the programs that we're doing, we need to, we are guided, the success is based on how best can you try to influence people to adopt and adapt to the ideas that you're coming up with, the implementation that you're doing, so that they can be able to accept them. So SBCC is a go-to course for you in this profession, and I would encourage you to be part of this class, which is happening next. So chat with us on the chat section, and our team is going to lead you when it comes to the registration process. So maybe just as I try to wind up, so as I did mention, very easy. You can be able to register as an individual, register as a group, and then we're going to guide you more when it comes to that particular course. So finally, other courses that you can be able to browse them there. We do have fundraising and resource mobilization for NGOs, and this is also going to take a period of 2 weeks for this one. And then we do also have data collection using Kobo Toolbox and Open Data Kit. That is also a 2 weeks training, and you can be able to register. It's happening sometime in September, as well as the fundraising one happening in the month of September. We do also have data analytics and visualization, and this is using SPSS and Power BI. You can be able to register for that one as well. That is taking a period of 2 weeks. And then finally, we do also have another upcoming training workshop in the month of September, and that is going to be the leadership and project management for NGOs and development organizations. So you might be a project manager, you might be a leader, team leader for your team. So this is a must-have skill course for you that I would encourage you to check it out, and then you can be able to register and be part of the class. So now, finally, let's talk about the WASH courses, because I know this being a WASH workshop, you might also be interested to undertake some online courses that you can be able to build your capacity. We've got a certificate level course in water sanitation and hygiene. This is a course that once you go to train and learn with us, go to the online courses, and then water sanitation and hygiene, you're going to see we have the certificate level course taking a period of 3 months. And the procedure for you to apply, pretty easy and simple for you. So you can be able to click on the apply now, and then you're going to have a form, and then you can proceed and register for that course. So this is a purely self-paced course, where you're going to be learning via through our e-learning platform. And this is being guided by our trainers there, our team from the academic team, so that we can continuously support you through the learning period. The other level, it's the diploma level course. And because of time, I'll not be able to run you through the outlines. You can have a look at them. And this is going to take a period of months. You can be able to also register for this one. And then finally, we do have what we have as the postgraduate diploma level as well in water sanitation and hygiene. And this is a course taking a period of 1 year. So with that, in case you have queries about these courses, do chat us on the chat section, and then we can be able to guide you. Finally, and sorry for taking too much time, when it comes to water sanitation and hygiene, again, apart from those online courses, the self-paced courses, we do also have more training workshops there that you can take for you, for yourself, for your team, for your organization. Talk to your departmental heads, and have a look at these courses. They are very good courses, very good training workshops. And the good thing is that we can even now try to tailor make them to suit your organization based on the project that we've been doing. So just reading through the list here, there are quite many of them where we have a training workshop on washing schools and menstrual hygiene management. We do have wash financing and governance training workshop. We have the GIS and data analysis for WASH projects. We do also have GEDC, that is the Gender Equality, Disability and Social Inclusion training workshop. We do also have hygiene promotion practical tools. And this is very important, using the CLTS, getting to learn more about the CLTS approach, the FAST, the CHAST, and among others. And also we do have the Sustainable Rural and Urban WASH Planning. So this is a contemporary course looking into some of the contemporary issues when it comes to WASH. We do also have WASH in the healthcare settings, and this is during the emergencies. And then we do have the social behavior change communication, and also a crash course on water sanitation and hygiene. So with that said, feel free to browse through the website. I think by now you know how to go about the various options that I've shown you. And we look forward to seeing you join us. And thank you so much, Sheilah, for the time, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for that very good explanation about what we have in store. I am deeply sorry about, I think our internet is having an issue, but we are looking forward to fixing the same so that you are able to hear us very clearly. So in case you missed out on what Anthony had said, we are sharing with you a link, our website, so that now you can also now just familiarize yourself with what Anthony was talking about. And better still, if you want more explanations and just someone to give you an introductory session about what Humanitarian Global offers and also the different programs that we have, please share your contact details, and then we can have a one-on-one session with you just to be able to make you understand and see how best you can be able to join us depending on the course that you're currently doing. So we'll share with you a link, and then you will be able to see for yourself what we have in store. And I thank you all for joining. People like Lumiere, Mohammed, Amanu, Fitsum, we are sorry about Anthony's voice, Zainab, apologies, Mohammed, Yedewe, welcome. Bernard, we are truly sorry, we are correcting that mic issue. Mohammed, Ilham, Abdi Rashid, thank you so much for your contact, and everyone else. So with that, I believe we can get on board what we have in store for today, and allow me to take this opportunity to welcome Susan to take over the session. And as she prepares herself to share her screen, please, if you have any questions as she continues to present, please on the Q&A section. And also, if you have any new comments that you want to add to whatever she's talking about, please address it in the chat feature, and we'll be able to acknowledge them even as you move along. So with that, Susan, welcome.
Thank you, Sheilah. And thank you, Anthony, for the introduction and overview of what Humanitarian Global is offering. Hopefully, we'll get people signing in. I promise you it is worth your time and effort, and we'll do the best we can as a team to provide all the support that you require. For now, allow me to go straight into today's discussion. And as was indicated when the invitation was shared, we will be discussing inclusive WASH, and more so guidelines to developing inclusive WASH infrastructure. I will go ahead and share my screen. Kindly confirm, Sheilah, that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you very much. So with that time left, I'll try my best to summarize, but ideally, the discussion on inclusive WASH infrastructure is very wide, very detailed. There's a lot of information out there that we can also reference. It's also important for me to note that as I am discussing the guidelines, these are just a framework that should be contextualized to where you work. it is an indication or a roadmap that we can apply or use, especially for those who are involved with hard wash. When I talk about hard wash, I'm really talking about, the actual construction, construction supervision, design, planning, and monitoring and evaluation of any infrastructure related to wash. It could be water supply systems, it could be sanitation facilities, hand washing structures or facilities, or any other structures that pertain to wash programs. So, you pick what you can and contextualize it to where you work. I will also try as much as possible to finish up and give us time to just interact and ask questions as Sheilah has directed us, so that we can, share as much information amongst ourselves, acknowledging that, in our midst, we do have professionals who've worked in the wash sector in various countries or localities for many years. So I do not purport to be introducing something new, but rather just providing a platform for us to share best practices and encouragement to each other, so that we can continue to move closer to achieving SDG 6 by 2030. So the guidelines that we will discuss today promote the development of inclusive wash infrastructure through a participatory and integrated approach. The first being leaving no one behind, or LNOB, where meaningful participation and integrated approaches to quality infrastructure development is advocated for. The LNOB principle is at the heart of the 2030 agenda and promotes equality, non-discrimination, and equity for all peoples, especially as highlighted in SDG 5, which is achieving gender equality and empower all women and girls, and SDG 10, reducing inequality within and among countries. LNOB places special emphasis on those left farthest behind and the most excluded, such as women and girls, children, youth, older persons, persons with disabilities, diverse genders, because we are in the age of diverse genders, persons living in poverty, indigenous peoples, refugees and internally displaced persons, and any other groups facing social exclusion within specific contexts. So throughout today's session, I will try as much as possible to refer to these social groups collectively by the term women and marginalized groups, just so that I don't have to keep repeating that long list of the groups that I just mentioned. The guidelines also recognize that both gender equality and social inclusion are major components of leaving no one behind, and that that one cannot be achieved without the other. So they are mutually inclusive. Okay. The second is meaningful participation. So supporting the 2030 agenda requires a whole of government, whole of society approach that is truly collaborative and participatory. We need to work together to achieve a cross-cutting, bottom-up and sustainable approach to inclusive wash infrastructure development. This includes promotion of collaboration among various actors, such as civil society organizations, governments and policymakers, planners, designers, project managers, contractors, procurement officials, operators, asset owners, and local communities. So as you can see, there is literally, all groups involved when it comes to participation. None is left behind, so that we can get the varied, information to make sure that we are making the right decisions as we design and implement wash infrastructure. Finally, we have integrated approach, and an integrated approach to quality infrastructure development is quite necessary given the costly nature of infrastructure investment. We need to make sure that we develop quality infrastructure, which can be thought of as the right infrastructure done well at the right time. Okay. So the right infrastructure is sustainable. How we describe the right infrastructure? It is sustainable, it is resilient, and it is inclusive within its context. Again, what is done perhaps in Kenya might not be practical in South Sudan, might not be practical in Nigeria, might not be practical in South Africa. So within that context, there is the right infrastructure, and it needs to be sustainable, it needs to be resilient, and it also needs to be inclusive. Many women and marginalized groups rely on natural resources and are often the most vulnerable to climate change impacts. And so sustainability and resilience considerations, with a particular focus on the importance of fresh water and watershed conservation, must be integrated into the approach to developing inclusive wash infrastructure. An integrated approach also recognizes that infrastructure works in a system of systems. This means that wash infrastructure is enabled by other infrastructure systems, such as energy for powering pumps and infiltration assets, solid waste management to minimize water pollution, and wash to and from water collection points and conveying sludge for treatment, among others. In addition, these systems operate through the interaction of elements in the built, natural, and enabling environments. For example, reservoirs, okay, which would fall under the built environment, can collect rainwater and water from rivers being the natural environment, and are designed based on technical standards, which is the enabling environment. So we have the built environment, such as reservoirs, we have the natural environment, such as the rivers, the streams, the lakes, and you have the enabling environment, which is basically the regulatory framework. So we are not able to pick one and leave the other. The system needs to be working for us to truly say that we are implementing inclusive wash, okay? So is there a need for inclusive wash? Yes. One can argue that there is. I don't know if there's if one can argue against inclusive wash, because there are quite a number of issues surrounding a lack of wash infrastructure. And as we all know, wash or water sanitation and hygiene is an essential service that provides clean water for human consumption and hygiene practices and a safe means to dispose of human waste. It is necessary for supporting life, for improving health, and maintaining safe environments. So safe and consistent wash practices are essential for preventing and controlling the spread of diarrhea, acute respiratory infections, soil-transmitted worm infections, and undernutrition, right? Goal 6 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development focuses on ensuring access to water and sanitation for all. And despite significant progress, a large proportion of the global population still lacks access to adequate water and sanitation. In 2023 alone, around 2 billion people worldwide did not have access to safely managed drinking water services. 1.5 billion people lacked access to safely managed sanitation services, and 1.4 million people, including 400,000 children under 5, die each year from preventable diseases attributable to inadequate wash. Unsafe hand hygiene alone is responsible for 394,000 deaths from diarrhea. In particular, 70% of households in sub-Saharan Africa lacked access to safely managed drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene services. So aside from issues surrounding the general lack of wash infrastructure, horizontal inequalities exist in the access of women and marginalized groups to inclusive wash services. Some examples include, number one, in some communities, there may be a belief that persons with disabilities will contaminate water sources, leading to them being shunned or excluded in communal wash facilities. And therefore, you find numerous instances where wash facilities are designed and constructed without the consideration of people with disabilities, accessibility to these facilities. The second would be that people living in informal settlements may lack documentation or the ability to pay for piped water or water in households or at stand taps. And relying on informal water provision can be around 10 times more costly, okay? So this then also bars them from accessing these wash facilities. Then we have women, girls who menstruate lacking access to menstrual hygiene materials and a safe and private place that offers dignity to wash and change due to stigma, discrimination, or not being prioritized in household decisions. These gaps can result in wash-related exclusion, reinforcing cycles of poverty, inequality, and deprivation. Women, children, and marginalized groups are disproportionately impacted by a lack of equitable access to water and sanitation, especially in fragile context. When I talk about fragile context, I'm talking about the emergency or humanitarian context, okay? In many communities where water is not piped into homes, women and children are primarily responsible for fetching water from far away water sources, accounting for around 200 million hours a day being spent on water collection by women and children worldwide. This leads to time poverty for many women and men. For many women and children, as they have less time available for productive activities, for domestic tasks, for leisure, for work, as well as for education, okay? In fragile contexts, lack of equitable access to water can lead to inter and intra-community conflicts and displacement. The most marginalized people may be forced to engage in transactional sex, which we call sextortion, to pay for water and other basic needs, which is a very sad scenario to have where this should be their basic right. Lack of safe wash can lead to stunting in children and increased health complications for persons with disabilities and older people. Diarrheal diseases are the second leading cause of death in children younger than 5 years of age worldwide. So when I talk about horizontal inequalities, there are general solutions that can be applied to address wash gaps, but there is no one-size-fits-all solution to wash-related exclusion, and it is critical to understand the specific barriers within your given context. This is because exclusion can result from different context-specific, historical, and often interrelated factors that have differential impacts on people, okay? So the horizontal inequalities can include, number one, discrimination and social exclusion, where restrictive sociocultural norms and negative attitudes can lead to the exclusion of certain social groups from using wash services. We have physical barriers and lack of safety, where wash services are physically difficult due to inadequacies in the system. For example, wash services may be unavailable, or they are situated in unsafe areas. They could be inaccessible for all, or remote or difficult to use. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, should I say we are done or we are still in it, not sure. But in the thick of the COVID-19 pandemic, or on the onset, actually, there was a lot of introduction to new technology in terms of wash infrastructure. We had taps where you're not meant to touch, so they had sensors, or there was a knob that you'd push either with your knee, or a pedal you'd step on your foot. And at the beginning, it was not quite clear, okay? The instructions were not well cascaded to everyone. So you'd find people having difficulties using this infrastructure, which led to this infrastructure not being used as it should have been used, okay? So that would be termed as a physical barrier. We have prohibitive costs and requirements, where the cost in terms of time, money, and effort or legal requirements can limit people from being able to afford safely managed wash services. We have limited access to information, where people do not have access to or are unable to understand the format of information available regarding wash services. And this is where SBCC comes in, social behavior change communication, where you strive to share as much information as you can that is contextualized to the target audience to ensure that they truly and fully understand and appreciate these good practices that we are advocating for as professionals in the wash sector. And finally, we have lack of access to decision making, where people face power imbalances and lack representation and thus are unable to make decisions regarding their daily activities or how wash infrastructure is developed. And this is very prevalent, especially in the informal areas or settlements where we have a lot of well-wishers or funding agencies coming in to support these groups with wash infrastructure development. It is quite key that as we intend to do well, that we are also consulting and being considerate of the situation and not so much as ticking a box, because sometimes it's very easy for us to say, well, money was disbursed, we identified an area where we could build a sanitation block, we got a contractor on board, the construction was done well to the specified standards, everything is working even post-construction, and we are happy, and pictures and reports are shared, and there's applause. But at the end, you need to also check, actually not at the end, at the beginning, you need to consult with the beneficiaries to understand, is a sanitation block what they really want at that point in time? Or is it actually water supply? Because we could have a very beautiful, well-done sanitation block, but if there's no water supply, or if there's no hygiene promotion in the area for people to fully understand the need for them to use the sanitation block, then this will be what we term as a white elephant, where it is wonderful to look at. It's, it's a beautiful structure, but it's not really in use, okay? So there are quite a number of challenges when it comes to implementing inclusive wash infrastructure, especially in the Global South. So in the Global South, this includes, the Oriental countries as well as Africa. And this can be attributed to multifaceted and interrelated challenges in the development of wash infrastructure. These include and not limited to insufficient capacity, including institutional, technical, financial, and knowledge to plan, deliver, and manage inclusive wash infrastructure that can, number one, satisfy short, medium, and long-term wash needs of all peoples, especially women and marginalized groups. So it's not a situation where you're coming in to put a two-door VIP latrine for a community because perhaps they lack sanitation facilities. It is a situation where you evaluate for the two-door VIP latrine, how long is this latrine going to be in use for? How many people can use it? What operation and maintenance procedures need to be put in place? If you're talking about it being used in use for the next 10, 20 years, is that going to be sustainable? Do we need to rethink the infrastructure that we're putting in, perhaps adopt more modern designs for it to be useful for a longer period rather than just for 2 or 5 years, and so on and so forth. Again, you need to plan, deliver, and manage wash infrastructure that does no harm to the environment and local communities. Does no harm means that it does not disrupt the community's daily activities. It does not expose them to dangers, okay? This also plays into the siting of this wash infrastructure, ensuring that there's adequate lighting, that the doors lock properly, that there's no holes within the infrastructure, that perhaps you provide for security and operation and maintenance. The third is resilience in the face of challenges such as climate change, such as conflicts, pandemics, and disasters. And it was quite interesting to see how resilient WASH infrastructure is pre and post-COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic. We've had to rethink how we go about constructing WASH infrastructure, to take into account such pandemics that have disrupted our way of design and construction in the past. Inclusive WASH infrastructure that can navigate complex urbanization challenges, such as informal developments where water bodies that can contaminate water sources with human waste and garbage is possible. So you want to think through what water sources can be exploited when you're talking about service provision in informal settlements. Drilling boreholes could look, feasible, but you also need to examine the extent of water pollution in this area, because solid waste management is a big challenge when you talk about, when we refer to informal settlements. And we also need to ensure that WASH infrastructure is based on inclusive evidence to prevent mismatches and to determine appropriate solutions for design, implementation, and technology in alignment with local WASH customs and practices. I cannot emphasize this enough. Data is gold, especially in the WASH sector. Data is everything. You need to ensure that you're making reference to data that has already been conducted. Of course, not all data. And if there are gaps in the data, then making provision for conducting these surveys or research to ensure that you're making informed decisions. Again, remember, you are using money, and there's no need for you to use your time, your money, and your effort to put in infrastructure that will only be used in the short term. Okay, we are talking about sustainability and resilience. Okay, some more challenges include a weak enabling environment, which includes a lack of or limited ability to enforce policies, legislation, regulation, and formal processes that enable integrated and multi-sectoral approaches to sustainable, resilient, and inclusive WASH and effective water resource management, especially in water-scarce countries and contexts where there are water-related conflicts. And this is something quite common in Africa. A lot of the countries in Africa are already water scarce, and therefore we need to think through how we manage these finite resources, because water is a finite resource. And if you're not careful, we'll have to start talking about, relocating to Mars, as has been discussed quite often, right? Because once water is over, once we've depleted our resources, then life as we know it would completely change. Another challenge is insufficient awareness of and political commitment to gender equality and social inclusion, which can lead to a lack of meaningful consultation and representation of women and marginalized groups in WASH planning, delivery, and management. Cultural and behavioral challenges such as traditional beliefs may also hinder users from adopting healthier WASH practices. And again, SBCC comes into play in such instances. Insufficient accountability and transparency in WASH investment decisions and procurement processes may lead to spatial inequalities regarding where investments are made. And therefore, you find instances where certain regions in a country have received heavy investment in WASH and they seem to be doing well. And on the flip side, we have certain regions that maybe are perceived to be geographically inaccessible, not receiving as much as they need, and therefore rendering them marginalized or vulnerable. So some approaches to developing inclusive WASH need to address WASH exclusion faced by women and marginalized groups, ensuring that we incorporate concepts of leaving no one behind through intersectional and GESI transformative approaches and meaningful participation within an integrated approach to quality WASH infrastructure development. In addition, addressing the implementation challenges WASH infrastructure practitioners face in the Global South entails taking a holistic approach across the life cycle of inclusive WASH infrastructure development. 4 approaches that I can recommend to be utilized to incorporate inclusive principles and address implementation challenges include strengthening the enabling environment, So that means, reviewing the regulatory framework in your context. There are policies or legislation that exist that promote inclusive wash. Yes, no. If yes, are they being fully implemented? If there's a gap in implementation, who can do what and how to ensure that these policies are in implementation. If there are no existing policies, then you start taking the first step, and that is advocating for policies, pushing the agenda for inclusive wash within the legislation sectors or circles to ensure that this legislation is enacted, and therefore implementation can be planned for and executed. The second is prioritizing inclusive solutions. And prioritizing inclusive solutions brings on board participation and consultation. We cannot purport as WASH professionals to know it all. Where we are working in our context, there are different cultures, different norms and perceptions that need to be taken into account when designing and implementing this WASH infrastructure. Again, plays into the policies and the goodwill of the government, where there already exists an intent by the government to ensure that the people have access to WASH infrastructure. Then that is a good starting point to ensure that inclusive WASH infrastructure is developed. This also brings in, suppliers of various components, research and academia institutions to ensure that data is available, research is undertaken to move forward with making informed decisions. The third is delivering inclusive solutions as well. So it just doesn't stop with identifying these principles of inclusive WASH or drawing up wonderful designs, but also in the execution of these designs, in the execution of this infrastructure, ensuring that it meets all standards as prescribed or are applicable in your context, as well as the maintenance and operations. So setting the plans for selection of the contractor, construction supervision by qualified personnel, selection of perhaps firms or companies or individuals to maintain and operate this infrastructure is very, very important. And finally, we have maximizing existing systems performance. You might find a situation where you don't necessarily have to construct new infrastructure or to develop new infrastructure, but build on what is already available, just because sometimes, we have constraints in budgets, constraints in space where you are working perhaps, and there's already good work that has been done, and therefore there's no need for us to duplicate efforts because we are all trying to move in the same direction. It is not a competition. In the end, we all strive to achieve the SDGs. So where we can build and partner and synergize with other like-minded organizations, then that is one way in which we can achieve SDG 6. So in summary, the world is facing grave challenges that place the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in jeopardy. The Sustainable Development Goals Report 2022 finds that the COVID-19 pandemic has wiped out more than 4 years of progress in poverty eradication. Armed conflicts have caused a record 100 million people to be forcibly displaced, and climate change has induced heat waves, droughts, and floods that affect billions of people. So infrastructure development must be accelerated to respond to these challenges and address development gaps. And it is important to note that infrastructure is a key enabler of sustainable development, as it influences the achievement of up to 92% of the sustainable development goal targets. So much attention has been placed on accelerating climate action and sustainability in infrastructure without due focus on the needs of women and marginalized groups, such as children, the youth, the older people, persons with disabilities, gender diverse people, persons living in poverty, indigenous peoples, refugees, and internally displaced people, among others. And therefore, future infrastructure must be developed through inclusive solutions and encompass more social needs. And with that, we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you very much. I think I'd like to give the session back to Sheilah, and she can take us through any questions or comments that have been shared within the chat box. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Susan. That has been really extensive, and we do appreciate the information that you've given to us. There are so many questions, so allow me to answer to give you like at least 3 questions, and then we have anyone who wants to ask a question live, please raise up your hand, and then we will be able to give you a chance to speak. But my first question comes from Lumiere. What do you think of the future generation in water hygiene and sanitation? Wash. What is your thought on future generation in water hygiene and sanitation? Wash.
Wow, that is an interesting question. And I speak for myself, please, so do not quote me anywhere. But I don't want to sound gloom, and I don't want to make it look like it is, a sad reality. But there's a lot that needs to be done. Where we are at the moment and how we are progressing is not very encouraging. But that doesn't mean there's nothing that can be done. That doesn't mean that we sit back and, belt up and brace for impact. There's a lot that you can do even individually, and that boils down to how are we using water even in our houses? Are we just letting the tap run? Are we taking 1-hour showers? Are we looking at taps that don't fully close, and therefore there's wastage? How are we using the resources that are available to us at the individual level? Once we are able to tackle that, then even at the communal level, at the regional, national, international level, then it makes it easier when we sit down and talk about, managing our resources responsibly. Because then when we fully appreciate the importance, the very big importance in water and sanitation to our livelihoods, to our health, then everything else will fall into place. So as much as we are talking about billions of people not accessing, and the population is growing every single day, children are born world over. And that still, widens the gap that we need to cover. That doesn't mean that it should be discouraging. It just means that we should tie our shoelaces, and do the best that we can in our areas of work, even at home, to ensure that we are managing our resources well for the future generation. Because what we do now will be felt by our children's children, not even our children, okay? So what we do now is very, very important. Thank you, Sheilah.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Susan. And I believe that's also a question all of us can be able to answer. So it can be to share a bit of your thinking or how your thought process is moving. We'll be happy to. From I think I'll take Emmanuel's question. What is the operational definition of horizontal inequalities, which I believe you are able to touch? And is there vertical inequalities?
Thank you, Sheilah. Horizontal inequalities, just by the word horizontal, it means that, if we place everyone at the same level, you'll realize that there are some that are, slightly better off than others in a specific context and on a specific topic or item. So when you're talking about rural and urban areas and inequalities, these are people we are talking about. You'll see that people living in the urban areas have better access to healthcare. They have roads, the road networks work, security perhaps is better as compared to those in the rural areas. or in the geographically inaccessible areas. Yet we are all people and we all have the same rights. Okay, so that is horizontal. Okay, vertical would now be in terms of power play. Okay, so that would be maybe, for example, in an organization, you might find that those at the top access or enjoy, wonderful benefits, and then those at the bottom, are oppressed, cannot speak up. There are laws that, or there are policies within the organization that hinder them from fully accessing this benefit. So the vertical would more so be on political or organizational contexts, but horizontal would mostly be at the local context, when we are all standing and we are stripped of titles, and we, try to understand why a person with disability does not have the same or does not enjoy the same benefits as any other person, then that would be what we call horizontal inequality.
Good. Thank you so much for that description. And then I have a question from Bernard. Securing wash infrastructure is one thing, but the maintenance and sustainability of the infrastructure itself is key. What is your take to wash infrastructure maintenance and sustainability in the context of prohibitive costs and requirements?
Very, very good question. With maintenance and operation, I think nothing can be done without planning, okay? And for any program that you implement, whether it is construction of infrastructure or training of individuals, there has to be a monitoring and evaluation plan that has already been set in place, so that you're also able to understand, are we moving in the right direction in terms of maintenance? Is this the technology that is, suited, or did we make a mistake? Do we need to relook the infrastructure that we've put in place? Is it costly? Is it easy to clean? Are the spare parts easily accessible? Do we need technical expertise to run this infrastructure or to manage this infrastructure? The plan is the number one step to ensure that this infrastructure is sustainable beyond the implementation period. So without that plan, nothing much can be done. And then, of course, there's the, setting aside funds for maintenance and operation, setting a framework for, how it's going to be done. Is it a daily activity? Is it monthly? Is it biannually? Is it an annual thing? Who's going to do it? Where are the funds? Who's going to avail these funds? Who's going to oversee the maintenance and operation in the instance that maybe several organizations or sectors or the government is involved? Just having that quite clear makes it that much easier for us to discuss maintenance and operation. But the very beginning of it all is setting that plan up. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So I want to give a chance to participants to ask their questions live. And as I look at, I'm having Abdi Rashid. So as I welcome Abdi Rashid, maybe you can tell us what is the accurate distance or right way to dig a toilet and borehole in the same area? What will be the best accurate? Yes.
Thank you, Sheilah. We have quite a number of guidelines that give a lot of information on this. The most common I have seen is between 15 to 30 meters away from a toilet or from a pit latrine, and the borehole should be situated or sited upstream of the toilet. Okay? Just to ensure that there's no contamination, there's no surface runoff that could potentially pollute or contaminate this water source. So 15 to 30 meters, I would say 30 meters, especially in areas where there's heavy pollution, or even more if there's, space that allows for that. But 15 to 30 is the prescribed guideline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Abdi Rashid, are you able to speak?
Hello,
Ask
everyone.
your question. Hello.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And I don't have a question, but I would like to share in the presentation. So I would like to say thank you for your sharing the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Abderrashid. We always also want to hear how happy you are in terms of the whatever we have provided to you in terms of this presentation. So thank you for that. We'll share the recordings and the presentation by close of business tomorrow. So do watch out for that in your emails that you used to register for the webinar. Do we have any other question? As we wait, I think, Suzanne, there's a question on gender. The question is, what are some of the key considerations when developing inclusive water, sanitation, and hygiene infrastructure to ensure accessibility to all individuals, promote gender sensitivity, and engage local communities, intersectionality to design WASH programs or projects?
I think, thank you, Sheilah. I think that question has partly been answered. I did talk about some approaches that you could use, the concepts of leaving no one behind, ensuring participation as well. Intersectionality is a term used to describe the idea that social relations involve multiple intersecting forms of discrimination, meaning that a person might experience several forms of discrimination, maybe such as racism or sexism and all that. So again, this is where we talk about contextualizing, contextualizing your approach to the area in which you're working in. For example, if you're talking about the informal settlements, you have to acknowledge that intersectionality is going to be very prevalent. A person could be facing multiple forms of discrimination, even within a day. And when it comes to WASH infrastructure access, you're talking about perhaps only one door VIP latrine was constructed, and men, women, girls, boys, children, old, people with disabilities are to access that one door. Okay. So when you are, in a situation where that is what has been provided for, then does it really truly address the needs of all these people, taking into account that perhaps it is a community where women and girls are not, enabled or empowered to speak. Okay, so the door faces the market. Everyone can see, whoever is going in and out of the toilet. Perhaps the walls have, maybe it's not a solid wall, it's planks that have been used, so it does not offer dignity to all involved. Perhaps the access to the door is not quite easy. So trying to fit all that in and acknowledging that the group of people that you are serving would then, with the consultation that I mentioned, and also ensuring participation in design and implementation, would ensure that this intersectionality is addressed.
Good. Good. Thank you so much for that. And Musa, you can ask your question. Musa, are you here with us? You can ask your question. Okay. As Musa speaks, I think I have one more question that you can touch, because I'm also seeing you are lost. Our time is far much gone. The question is, how do you integrate WASH programs among the artisanal mining groups?
Among the artisanal
mining groups.
Wow, I'm not so sure. Artisanal mining groups. Oh, I wish the person who asked the question could give us more information.
Esther, I think she's here. Let me allow her to ask the question. Esther, you can ask your question. Esther, are you able to hear us? I can't hear you. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Okay, maybe I can just
expound on your question. Okay.
Yeah, if Esther is not available, and I stand to be corrected because I'm not too sure what, this is the first time I'm hearing artisanal mining.
Yes, artisanal mining. So it's about mining, but basically the lowest form of mining.
Mhm.
So how do we integrate WASH programs in, in those kind of communities, noting that it's a form of work for some of our community members within our region, especially in some of the hard to reach areas. We have artisanal mining taking place in the gold space within the Western region. We have artisanal mining taking place in places like Turkana, Marsabit, and of course, places like Taita Taveta. So when it comes, if you notice some of those areas, water is an issue. So how do you integrate sustainable, because you talked about sustainability, sustainable WASH programs in such areas? Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for that explanation. That's quite clear. I'd look at it as this is a workplace for them, as much as we are saying that it is the lowest or it is perhaps informal, but it is a workplace. And if we were to place you, for example, in that situation where we're telling you, okay, Esther, we need, perhaps they're mining for gold, okay? You have a target, go ahead. But knowing Esther is a female, Esther needs, to go to the toilet to relieve herself. Maybe there are no hedges, where we are talking about open defecation, which we do not advocate for. I personally do not advocate for that. There's also, time in the month where you need to also access water and sanitation facilities as well as hygiene facilities to take care of your needs. So taking that into consideration, treating it as a workplace, you definitely want to ensure that for the number of people that have been, brought on board by whichever company that is in charge of that, there are policies that, guide these organizations in terms of WASH infrastructure that they should provide in these sites, okay? So the placement of these toilets, perhaps they'll put it into consideration how it affects the mining activities. Are they accessible? Are the toilet stalls enough? Where is water coming from? If it is, a far off place, perhaps they want to drill a borehole and provide water for these workers. If it is, we're talking about mining here, so there's a lot of dirt, there's a lot of dust, and hygienically or health-wise, that is not great. So providing personal protective gear, providing showers where, people can freshen up, can shower, can get rid of the dirt, just promoting a good workplace, just generally or basically how you walk into an office and you have the toilets close by that you can use and that they're cleaned and that, they have provision of water. They have bins for, the females. They have showers for both females and males. These considerations, I know, talking about it now, this is an ideal setting where we can talk about it. But really, we are talking about a lot of sectors being brought into place. We have the labor that would come into place. We have perhaps the mining department that would need to, step in. We have the water and the health departments that would need to step into collectively, together with those involved, a representation of the miners, a representation of these organizations that hire miners, sitting down and truly understanding the need for WASH in these sites and how to go about it. And this cannot be complete if there are no policies or regulations set in stone, okay, that lead to enforcement. Because then if there is lack of these policies, then people will cut corners, okay, because I'm sure these organizations are looking to make a big buck really quickly. Therefore, they're not looking to spend a lot of money on other, things that they perceive to be not necessary. But, having this continued consultation, so it's not something that could start today, but with the continued consultation and engagement, then perhaps we would, start seeing a change for the artisanal miners. I hope this answers your question, Esther.
Has brought an awareness. Thank you. Treating it as a workplace, I think it's a start.
Yeah, because they also have rights. This is work. They're making a living, but they're also giving an organization some gain. So the organization also has a responsibility to ensure that the basic standards of a workplace are also met.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That has very insightful conversation. So with that, I believe we have come. I don't know. I don't want to leave anyone out. I don't know if Musa, you're still that have taken so much into your time. But then again, if you want to get to pick, I always say pick Susan's brain, please join us in the various WASH programs that she will be training coming up. There's an SBCC program on the 26th. That is next week, all the way to 30th. She will be the one who will be training us on the same, and also all the various WASH programs that we have. If it's a certificate, if it's a diploma, if it's a postgraduate, please join us, and you will be able to meet your WASH training needs with that. Even for those who are having difficulties and asking, can WASH be implemented in agriculture irrigation? And just more information on the interventions and the standards in implementing inclusive WASH, and also anyone who has a challenge in implementing inclusive WASH, please join us and we will be able to help you in that. With that, allow me to end there. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for being attentive and making this session very much interactive. Looking forward to seeing you in different platforms as we engage each other towards making our WASH success a success. Thank you, and wish you all a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, wherever you are, and goodbye.
My name is Chepkwony. I'm the Operations Director at Beam Children's Foundation, a non-profit organization working in Tarbo, Eldoret, Kenya. We provide educational scholarships and mental health counseling to vulnerable children in the slums within Tarbo. I learned of Humanitarian Global through a friend and wanted to do a training on leadership and project management. And I got a chance to attend a training, a 4-day training on project management. And I've learned a lot. My take home would be the change management and communication that I intend to put into work once I get back to my workstation, and see to it that this improves the services that we deliver to our clients. Thank you.